My name is Benjamin Fortier, and this is actually a photo of me at the last time that we were able to all kind of get together and meet at the old colony. So first, I'd like to give a sincere thanks to everyone that has made this event possible. This year has been a real challenge for everyone, and I really don't know a single person that hasn't had a difficult time adapting to the unique situation that we're all facing. So to all of the OCHM staff, thank you for what you do and for being much more than just a history museum. So my first batch of poems are going to be geared towards social issues. While I think it's respectable that athletes use their platform to draw attention to problems in the country and around the world, that sort of messaging has always been integral to art, music, poetry, literature, and illustration. I support an athlete's right to free speech and to use their star power to raise awareness, but that's not why people turn on professional sports. People turn to the arts to hear new perspectives and challenges against social norms. With all that said, I hope to rustle some of your jimmies today with at least a few of these pieces. So this next piece was written this year in response to the poor leadership that was displayed while managing the public health crisis in this country. It's called Profits Over People. The politician looks to the economic strategist for advice on how to handle the pandemic, pushing an agenda that is based more on the influx of profit margins than on public safety. What kind of a world do we live in where our leaders are more concerned with business models than the overall well-being and health of their subordinates and constituents? We have such limited foresight that we're more worried about lining the pockets of corporations than saving the lives of our most vulnerable populations. What kind of a twisted world do we live in? So this is another piece that was written this year. The title is a quote from President Trump. You might recognize it. This is called "You'll Never See Me Again." The Orange Goblin, perched on his throne, lauding over his wealth and power, abusing our precious system and soiling the highest position of governance, playing down the crisis as his kingdom burns around him. He enables violence due to his lack of intervention. He enables pseudoscience as he touts bogus claims. 200,000 dead and rising, a shameful death toll that could have been prevented, but saving the economy was more important than saving lives. This may surprise you, but I do consider myself to be moderate on the political spectrum. I believe that both liberals and conservatives have an important role to play in the development of our more perfect union. I will use my right to free speech to get all sides to think about their positions and to try to get them to reaffirm the things that truly matter: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. In this current climate of extremism, however, the independent voice is typically trampled by those on the fringes. And thanks to our money-grabbing media conglomerates, these extremists will always get on the microphone or in front of the camera before anybody with sensibility does. I'd like to think of this next poem as the flip side of the one that I just read, as they were written within a couple of weeks from one another. This is the yin to its yang. This is called That Which You Despise. Standing on your digital platform, you laugh as the Orange Goblin is announced to have the great sickness. Like a fool, I reinforce the words of another. He's still a person. I insist that while I think the president is an abhorrent and despicable man, he doesn't deserve your mockery at this moment. Your stance is that you're anti-fascist. I think that's rad, because fascists suck. But your extremism is perpetuating an already broken system. Your hope that he succumbs to this illness would mean he leaves behind a shattered family. And surely not all of those people are bad, right? Even the young kids? Your one-track mind is so focused on pandering to your audience that I'm afraid your morals are being twisted to fall in line with the agenda of the crowd you want to fit into. Call me a virtue signaler, but I believe in compassion, kindness, and civility above all. I once thought that these were values in which we agreed upon, but maybe not. There are moments when we must resort to extremes, and only under the most dire circumstances is violence the only true answer. But this isn't one of those cases. And intermingling violence with malevolence is the most caustic poison that a human being can concoct. You're viewing this man as a subhuman, just as you believe he views others in that same way. At the end of the day, You're both degrading human life and justifying the sickness in your own mind. Convince me that you're better than that which you despise. So these next couple of poems are inspired by love and relationships. And this one is about toxic people that we allow into our lives and we share our hearts with them. It's called Buzzwords. He sees his 14-year relationship crumbling before him. He's strung out, in the weeds, and his former tactics are failing. Baby, I messed up, he pleads with his inamorata. I don't know what got into me. I needed a kick in the ass. The buzzwords swarm out of his mouth like flies attracted to a steaming pile of muck, laying eggs and hoping for his seemingly vulnerable facade to allow her to drop her defenses. I'm gonna change, baby. I love you. Please. It's been said time and time again, yet the change never lasts. He reverts to his old ways, the true ways, and she wonders why she keeps allowing herself to be manipulated and used by this gaslighting bully. We don't want to feel alone, even if they're fleeting. We all want moments of feeling loved. This next one was written when I got really upset one day at someone objectifying my girlfriend right in front of me. It's called Know-It-All. How dare you look at my love like an ornament of my belonging, like I picked her out in some big box store or boutique fashion outlet. This person is not simply an object of my desire or a token to be attached to my wrist. This human being in which I am so infatuated by comes with their own grief, complications, and idiosyncrasies, and yet I choose to love them with all my being, nothing less. And here you are, talking about them like they are some kind of artifact, some kind of shiny thing that I picked out of a treasure chest. You are so far gone and removed from my reality that I'm not sure there's so much hope for you. This person has feelings and emotions and desires and dreams, all these things I want to share with them. And yet all you want to talk about is how good the sex is or how much money they make or how hot they look in that dress. Man, you are so far gone. I feel bad for the people you pretend to love. So in lieu of Veterans Day, I've chosen these closing poems as a reflection of my own time in service. I am very excited to be working on a third poetry book, as Saria mentioned, that is dedicated entirely to my experiences in uniform. And I hope that the next time we all meet, I will have some clarity on when that will be available. Until then, I highly recommend to anyone that is interested in poetry by veterans to follow the Dead Reckoning Collective. They have just released a fantastic collection of work by veteran poets called War and After, and I'm very honored to have been selected as one of their featured authors. I also hope that our other featured presenter, Justin Egan, who is up next, will talk about his project that he's been working very diligently on. There is a wave of young combat veterans that are using literature and poetry to speak very frankly about their wartime experiences, and I'm beyond grateful to be a small part in this movement. This is a two-part poem that is a reflection on the motivations, desires, and thoughts that people experience when they go off to war. This is called What Makes Us Do It. The brain is revved to the red line. The incessant barking of the drill instructor keeps the atmosphere intense. It is a simulation of battle. We are at this depot to prepare our mind, body, and spirit for a situation that will make this one look like a phony. It all happened so quickly. Basic training, infantry school, then off to a deployment. It was as if willpower took over and brought these goals to life, back to back in quick succession, like the rapid fire of the machine guns that would go off around us. It was all so glorious, yet terrifying. The dichotomy of the human spirit is exhibited in full swings on the front lines of war zones. Maybe that's where the calling came from. To be an observer of all that we are capable of, all of the goodness and justice and integrity, but also the absolute evil and ruthless violence most of us are very unfamiliar with. Driven by a sense of duty, a young man leaves behind his eldest daughter. She is only 9 years old. He is convinced that God, king, and country will greet him on the killing fields, but there is nothing but death, sorrow, and violence. He never returns home to see his youngling grow up. Driven by a sense of honor, a teenage boy leaves behind his aging father. He too was a veteran of a previous conflict. The boy is convinced that shame will wash over him if he does not follow the same path of his sire. Even the might of a father's protection cannot save a young boy from the ravages of a chemical attack. The boy dies alone, and his body is never recovered. Driven by the propaganda of a mighty industrialized war machine, entire swaths of society stand behind the hawkish tactics of a ruthless post-imperial nation that skirts international laws and regulations. The gullible are sucked up into a vortex of ferocity, and the skeptics are cast aside as unpatriotic revolutionaries. Belligerent nationalism is poisoning our values, especially when it is intertwined with corporations and the economy. So my final poem for today is going to be a reflection on my last days before deployment, spent with some of my comrades in arms in a resort town in California, just outside of the training base that we were at. It's called Palm Springs. The last days in this cushy little country are spent comfortably numb and wandering through the streets in a drunken stupor. $200 worth of liquor is wasted. We bought enough for 40 people, and between 3 men, we just can't finish it all. What the hell were we thinking? Reciting poetry and smoking cheap cigars and wondering. What will the next few weeks dump on our laps? Where will we be in the next few months? Wrapped up in plastic or admitted to a hospital, laying down covering fire and tossing hand grenades, or bored out of our wits, watching Road Trip for the 14th time in a row. These people all around dumping money into their slot machines and relaxing in the pool with their fancy, overpriced cocktails had no idea where we were going. I can't imagine they would have had many reasons to care. Intoxicated, I wandered the streets alone, hoping to get into a fist fight, so my first taste of uncontrolled violence wouldn't have to be in Iraq. So once again, I'd like to thank everyone that has made this possible. I'd also like to extend a special thank you to my friend and compatriot, Justin, who's coming up next. He's been a real inspiration to me and is one of the finest warrior poets that I know. I do have 2 books available, as Saria said, on Amazon, and you can find out how to get them by going to my website. I also post a lot of photography, poetry, and opinion pieces on there, so if you're following in line with the things that I'm saying, you might be interested in reading some of my blogs. Thank you again. Take care of yourself and each other. Bye-bye.